are.
Yeah. That's what I do, is I help people.
Sorry.
Okay, let's call a meeting to order. It's Tuesday, March 7th, 2017. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Minutes and reports received and filed.
I have got February 2017, the Treasurer's Reconciliation Report, the clerk fees, recorder fees, and share fees filed.
Commissioner Committee Liaison Reports, upcoming meetings and events.
Missouri Association of Counties Board meeting tomorrow, Mid-Missouri Solid Waste Management District Board meeting tomorrow, 4-H Foundation meeting tomorrow, HBA General Membership meeting tomorrow, EMS Staff meeting Thursday, right? Chiefs meeting Thursday, I believe. Eastside Renegades meeting Friday. Got radio Friday?
Yeah, KWAS, I don't know who wants to do it, I can do it, or.
Okay, you can do it, just do it. I'm
Okay,
fine with
I'll do
that.
it.
Then we have incentives task force meeting. Tiger Fest Saturday night too.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to miss that. I think that's it till next Tuesday.
I don't believe I have any others that just didn't already hit, so.
No, I got tomorrow night's the Red Cross Heroes Dinner.
I do have a Cole County Parks meeting at noon on Tuesday, and we're, commission's not till Wednesday next week, right?
Right, Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, presentations from invited guests. Central Missouri Foster Care presentation. If you would come up here, could we stream our, just,
Sure. I'm gonna just bring you guys a couple of these so that you can.
Great.
and also we kind of limit it to about 10
Got
minutes.
5
want it,
minutes
thanks.
for you. Hopefully you
Yeah,
have.
we like that.
Sorry, did you have an extra hand? I don't.
Okay,
So
that's
sorry.
fine. Thanks.
Thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to come today. My name is Deanna Alonzo. I'm the CEO and founder for the Central Missouri Foster Care and Adoption Association, long name. We have an acronym, CMFCAA, so that's shorter. For the last several years, the commission has supported the interest of the children in Cole County by providing financial support to help them find adoptive homes and to help for reunification. We are not huge advocates of keeping kids in foster care because it pulls on our county dollars. But what's important to us is that children are able to either be reunited with their families if at all possible, or go into adoptive homes. Right now, Cole County has 8 children with no identifiable adoptive resource. That means that they will linger in foster care for a long time. We know right now that there's a residential treatment center here in Cole County that annually it's running us $53,000 per child. Monthly, $4,470. If our children remain in those care or in that institutional-like setting, they will end up institutionalized, aging out, and then go into the Department of Corrections. We know that to be a fact. We also know that adoptive kids that are in our county are seeing less disruptions. With the support of the commission, we've been able to stabilize those families. Whenever trauma comes to the surface, they oftentimes go into crisis because they're not real sure how to deal with that crisis. So they call us and we're able to assist them, either connect them with a mental health provider that they're not sure about, or provide emergency respite for them so that they can have a break so then we can stabilize the family. The disruptions are low. With the support of the commission for the last several years, we've been able to close crisis cases without disrupting those families. Otherwise, those children will return back into foster care in our county. So we've had less and less of those happening. In addition to that, we have found that the kids with no identifiable adoptive resource That means that they have no family, they have no supportive adults, they have nothing in terms of adults that care for them, except for the state foster care system. And so because of that, they have stayed into care more than 15 months, more than 22 months. Right now, it looks to be like some of these kiddos have stayed into care over 5 years, and that's in our county. That is a long time. If you were to add up the maintenance cost for that, that is quite a bit of investment from our county and from our state. Instead of, CMFCA is starting 2 new programs, the Extreme Recruitment in 30 Days to Family. Extreme Recruitment will help to identify supportive adults in their life, and within 22 weeks, those kids will come out of foster care into a permanent home. So we're asking today for just support to reinstate the dollars for the children in our county. And I'll just open it up for questions. Sorry, I'm a little nervous, I don't know what.
What is your budget per year?
About 300 right now.
Okay. And are you funded basically from the county? I mean, you get money from, funding from the county, or from the state?
We do have a contract for the state, but it's for the Adoption Resource Center. But yes, but our funding is diversified, so foundations, corporations, individuals, I grant write, those type of things. So it's diversified. We're not a licensing agency, so we don't get dollars for contracting in terms of finding and licensing families.
You had said something about $53,000 yearly to house kids. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Sure. So the Pringer Family Center is about $144 is the daily rate for an emergency placement for a child that has been removed from their home. So that's running $4,470.20 a month. If the child stays in there annually, it's $53,000.
Okay. That's the only question I had, I think.
I don't have any questions, so.
Okay.
Carol, anything you want to say?
No, I would just thank you for your time this morning, and, you know, I serve on the board of Central Missouri Foster Care and Adoption Association since January 1st, so this is relatively new to me, but I also sit on a child abuse and neglect review board that is in a governor-appointed position, and we see so many adopted and foster kids come through the system, not so much adopted, but we see so many foster kids come through the system. Anything that we can do to move foster kids out of foster care into adoption or return them home is really, as a society, where I think we need to be. So thank you for your time
Okay.
today.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks for coming in. We're gonna have to keep it going today because we got a full house.
I know. What are we? Busy.
Maximus.
Huh?
Discussion and signing of Maximus.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Business and signing of Maximus Consulting Agreement, our indirect cost study for the year 2016.
Okay, Maximus is the company that received the bid. The last time we do this every 3 years now, because the state only requires it. They have a no increase for the year of 2016 to do their indirect cost study. So I'd ask you to approve and sign the contract with Maximus. And Jill's reviewed the contract.
Good.
Yeah.
I move that we sign the agreement with Maximus.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Signing of the non-company agreement for appraisal services for assessor.
Chris, I printed out copies for you.
This just for general commercial appraisals?
Yeah.
That's what we talked about last week, just.
Chris, there's two
Yeah, we just
copies.
didn't have a copy of the contract.
Just so much per each one, I assume, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's listed in the contract.
Okay.
And then if further work is needed later on during the appeal process, then that will be in the new contract, is my understanding.
Okay.
There's also a transfer for that agreement.
For this agreement? Okay. Guys good?
Yep.
I'm good.
Move that we sign the agreement with Nunn and Company.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving right along. Signing of sole source approvals for the following 2017 SSO1 IO needles.
I'll talk about these kind of together. The IO needles, they're purchasing obviously an EMS, their sole source, as well as the programming and printing of the ballots in the clerk's office. I ran both of these ads on the 1st. Today, I just need you guys to sign off that they are sole source.
Nobody called or?
Correct.
Okay. I move that we sign the sole source approvals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. 2017 SSO2 ballot printing programs.
We just talked
That
about
was
that
the
one.
same thing.
Oh,
We did
same
both
thing.
at the same time.
Keep up.
Okay. Chamber of Commerce contract.
Oh, I've got it here. There's 2 copies. And then there's that, project list attached to it.
You guys good with this, or?
Yeah, we had it in the budget and everything, so pretty much talked about it before and approved it, just didn't have the contract. I don't think I need to sign them. I'll give them to Debbie. I'll pass them down for her. I'll let you keep your attention going there. There you go, Debbie. You good with it, Sam?
I'm good with it.
Okay, I make a motion, we sign the contract with Chamber of Commerce.
I second. Discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Signing of MMCAP application.
This is just an application, a cooperative procurement organization to get some pricing for some items that the health department is going to need in their new facility. I've said, we've had a couple emails go back and forth. It's not obligating us to anything. It's just an application. Questions?
It's just like another cooperative agreement. I move that we sign the MMCAP application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, order authorizing extension of the maturity date of the county's temporary note for the Parkview Meadows NID project.
You gonna skip Wheeler here?
Oh, signing the Interpol interface.
Wow.
Always the fat kid.
Well, see, I was impressed when I saw Interpol, and I thought we were the, and then they said, no, this is, so I lost my,
I want the record to show I had nothing to do with this today. We have digressed on Sam's own doing.
This is simply just, what we're doing is we're putting a monitor inside the jail to put all of the inmates on the board. So instead of writing it up with a dry erase board, when the officers book them in and hit enter, then they automatically go up on the screen. Cuts down on human error, also prevents us, it takes a little bit of time out of the processing. It's $1,500 for the interface, which we'll pay out of civil. It's going to be about $1,000 for the TV, and that'll come out of civil. The only thing that would require of the commission would, next year, we would increase our Interpol budget by $300 to make up for the interface for this, the maintenance agreement. That's all I got.
I'm good. I got one.
Good.
I move that we sign the Interpol interface maintenance agreement.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Now, do I have to read that all over?
No.
again?
Extension of the maturity date for Parkview Meadows.
Okay. This is the second extension, and it extends the contract refinancing out to September the 11th, 2017. It's, the first extension went from December 16 to March, and now we're going from March to September. There's a paperwork and that needs to be signed that Tony has sent. The motion has to be this order.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any questions about the project? I guess Larry is up here to answer that.
So what's the cost of the extension?
Right now, we have to pay the interest.
Okay.
So it's $2,028.11 that we'll be issuing a check for in accounts payable
Okay.
for the interest.
Okay. What other
And that will
costs?
go in the project.
What other costs?
Project cost.
Any other costs?
No, the same cost as the bond refinancing was before.
So it's just the interest? There's no cost to extend it,
That interest cost.
just the interest? And then we're gonna back charge the contractor for all the costs?
Okay.
Good?
Yeah, I'm good with passing the cost on. I'm just surprised it's only interest, so. if that's-
Yeah, I would've thought there would've been a fee too, but anyway.
Well, as long as the costs are passed on, because I mean, he's the one that should be paying for it being delayed and not being completed in time, so I'm fine with it.
So I move that we sign an order authorizing an extension of the maturity date of the county's limited general obligation temporary note, Parkview Meadows Neighborhood Improvement Project, Series 2015 with Hawthorne Bank, and authorizing certain other documents and actions in connection therewith.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Did you get that, Lynn?
Do we have any unfinished business? Okay, new business. Accounts payable review.
I'd ask for approval of accounts payable. It's a small run, it's just a jewelry.
Utilities,
Jewelry.
just jury?
Plus this.
Jewelry.
interest- Sorry. jewelry.
Yeah, she got a new ring.
Wedding ring.
Forget the clock.
Sam got a new Corvette?
And this interest payment.
Okay.
I'm good.
I move that we approve accounts payable pending review.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
National Queue Service discussion.
I have good news.
Good.
All right.
Oh!
When we signed on with the emergency medical dispatch, part of the contract was to do our quality reviews for the first 6 months, and then the thought was to remain with them for 6 months while we learned how to do that in-house, and the additional 6 months was going to cost us $9,100. Having said that, we have found a way to train our folks internally. So Kevin and Nicole will receive the training as part of our initial contract. And then we need to train one other person who is a dispatcher to actually do the day-to-day quality review of that as is mandated by the academy. So we found a class in southern Missouri somewhere, and the cost to attend that class is $1,000. My understanding is there's no additional courses needed after that, so it would be a one-time expense, and then we would be able to do this for as long as we have EMD here. So my recommendation is to not proceed with the academy's contract to do quality and to allocate around $1,100 to send someone from our department to the class.
Okay, that's good news. So, and as we go forward, Jerry, we'll be able to, will we have to send new people off to do?
Only if this person were to leave, so that's why we haven't identified the person yet. We want to make sure the person's
Okay.
not planning on going to school, taking another job somewhere else. They'll do the day-to-day, and then Nicole and Kevin will have the training as well, but they'll just oversee it and report the findings back to the academy.
So we'll be able to train all our dispatchers on,
Not all of them, no.
Not
It's
all?
pretty specialized.
Okay.
So just one for now and see how it goes.
but we can just send those people off and get them trained
It's a 2-day
individually.
course.
Yeah,
I'll send you the breakdown. It's a couple nights in a hotel, mileage and meals, that kind of thing.
A lot cheaper than $9,000.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Okay.
I'm good, yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, you're up next again.
Light radio installation for new EMS vehicle.
Okay, so we spec'd those out locally, and then Jennifer found out that the local vendor could only do the state contracted work for installation. They didn't have the state bid for the lights and the miscellaneous other things that we need for the truck. So we then got on the state website and found a state authorized vendor and received a bid from them, or a quote, I should say. And much to our surprise, the quote from the state bidder was higher than the local guy. So our recommendation was to proceed with the local vendor. I'll defer any bidding questions or quote questions to Jennifer. But my recommendation, our recommendation is to proceed with the local vendor, several $100s cheaper than the state bid.
How much was the total cost for the?
49 and change for the local guy, and it was 5109 for the company in Overland Park.
So this is just installation, or it includes the lights and the
It
radio?
includes everything, including the installation of the lights and the radios.
We don't have to drive to Kansas City.
Right. If we did the Overland Park guy, we'd have to shuttle the truck there, to be there 2 days, and then come back and pick it up. And then I don't know what we'd do if it broke down, if we'd have to take it there.
So question for Jennifer, since this is cheaper than the state contract, do we have to technically bid this,
We're
or?
under the 4,500, and it looks like everything that the sheriff's department's spending with them is underneath that cooperative procurement with Boone County. So we should be fine to purchase per this bid.
Okay.
But the question is, do we want to bid it? Could we get it even less if we put it out for bid?
No,
And
no.
I think we only have about one more person around here that, say, A&W.
And if
Doesn't-
you
there's
do want to
nothing
do that,
saying they're
Jeff,
gonna
we
do
don't
it.
have to, we can just call and get a quote too, because it's under the 4,500. So that's up to you guys.
Then if we do that, are we gonna have to worry about, if the sheriff wanted to do something that wasn't underneath the procurement? That would leave them starting over at the 4,500, right? 3,500, or which number? was
Yeah,
that?
they'd only have about $500. And Sheriff, it looks like everything that you guys spend with wireless is off of that Boone County contract. I don't know if you foresee anything in the next 90 days that you'd want to spend money outside of that contract, but
We just had some wires moved at the facility, but I think that was also under state contract, so I think we're good to go.
So what are you having done under state contract? Is it just an hourly agreement, or?
Hourly agreement, yes, sir.
So why can't they do this under that?
The labor.
they are, the labor
We are,
portion.
the labor is.
Okay,
And the equipment itself is right around 4,000,
okay.
and that's not on state bid, but he did check with the state bid, and that was higher than the local bidder's 4,000.
Okay.
But if
There
we
was
do
a
both
thought.
bids, you gotta do more than one.
Well, we have two so far, so I
So if you
guess,
call in, to give them a shot at it, we can say we bid it then. Is that gonna take a whole
well,
lot
I
of-
mean, yeah, bidding, I mean, we're just getting quotes. Informal bidding. We don't need to bid anything that's under the 4,500. Kind of policy, we call around and get quotes, you know? And so if we wanted to get another one, we could definitely do that. But we're under the 4,500, so we don't, per statute, need to get bids.
Actually, under 6,000, because 4,500, you don't have to do anything, but 45 to 6 is when you call around and do informal bidding. So you're actually informally bidding it, even though you don't necessarily have to.
So the other thing that, you're going with Motorola, is that correct? And so I assume that there's probably only a couple people that do Motorola, and obviously you want to stick with the same equipment.
Correct.
so that it's, all works the same. It's interchangeable, and so, anyway, I don't know if A&W can do Motorola, or can they?
My question was, if we call them, does that constitute being able to leave? The other company, basically you're starting back at zero, so you don't have to worry about if somebody uses them. Right now, we're gonna be buying $4,000 worth of equipment from them. If somebody buys 600, I don't know if Public Works does, just out of the blue for whatever reason, then
That would only be if we formally bid it, right, Jill? Even if we got bids underneath that
Right.
amount, unless it's formally bid,
I would think, Jennifer.
running in the paper and the whole 9 yards.
Technically, we use A&W too, so.
that's why I was just saying, give them a shot at it. It's not-
Well, yeah, the courtesy, we might wanna, since they're local too, we might wanna just call them up and just see. I mean,
If we're doing phone bids, they're bids, the way I see it.
Well, they're informal bids, but
Yeah.
Well,
the
yeah,
bid's a
but
bid,
now we
right?
just told everybody what their prices were, so. Huh?
Good point.
Yeah.
yeah.
we could call them when we get back. They're probably not watching. They might be. but-
You'd be amazed the number of people that watch us. We're better than soap operas.
Sometimes. It's whatever you guys want to do, but if you did want to proceed with this, you're fine to do so. And if you want to call and get a quote, if you want us to call and get a quote from A&W, we can do that as well.
I don't know, I called Jen because I was confused with the emails, because I didn't know what was included and
Mhm.
not included. And Jerry was trying to explain it through an email, and I wasn't catching on with it, so I just called Jen. I didn't want Jerry to think I was that dumb, but Jen already knew, so. Jen explained to me that part of it was included on the state contract and the other wasn't, and it seemed pretty simple. But then my question was, do we want to go ahead and do the informal bids? Number one, give the other vendor an opportunity, they're local, and possibly save us even more money, so. But we have given away the prices already, so. Well, we actually didn't give actual price, did we? You just said it was under 4,500.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think I ever said the exact amount. I don't know.
I didn't either, but I was close.
Well,
I rounded it.
we don't have the ambulance sitting there waiting on us.
No.
This is just a vehicle.
We're gonna be.
Why don't we do
or
this?
the truck, we're gonna be
We'll
6
get
weeks
back,
out,
we'll
right?
call them. I'll run over there. It's easy for me to run over there because I've got the spec sheet and everything. We can take the prices off. That's what I did with the state vendor. So I'll just take the same thing over there that I did with the state vendor in Overland Park, take it there. If you guys would just authorize the purchase of the least amount, then we can just go ahead and execute a PO after I get that other bid, quote, whatever.
Yeah, I'm good with moving forward with it. If we want to give A&W a shot at it, and we'll move forward with the lowest price.
Yeah, I like using local, and I think we, just out of courtesy, we're,
That's kind of where I was at.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, go forth.
Okay, we'll do it.
Go forth. New employee pay.
It's you, Jeffrey.
Huh?
This is you, buddy.
It is?
Yeah.
It got everybody's attention.
I think you were wanting to talk about the new EMS employee. If I remember the emails correctly.
Is that what we put that under? Now I gotta go back and find my, go to the next thing, let me refresh my memory.
Okay. Cooperative projects discussion.
I thought that was you.
It got everybody stirred up, I'll
Is
tell
that the one out of St. Louis?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, sir.
Mostly. I can get a copy.
Okay, thanks.
So is Melody the only one that can add these to the agenda?
No, I think.
I emailed it to her. Not that one.
Can Chelsea? We need to teach her how to do it too.
You talking about handouts?
No, just attaching it to the agenda.
Yeah, because I think Melody wasn't here today, so we didn't get these attached. And we
Not
couldn't-
that one. I didn't even send that
That
one. That's a bonus. We've been talking about the cooperative projects over the past couple months. Zeroed into 2 projects that we would like to do this year with the city. The project on Swift's Highway and Myrtle Street to coincide with the Helias improvements with the stadium. And the commission agreed to that project in general terms a couple weeks ago at the commission meeting to support that, half of that up to total project cost of $500,000, split halfway, $250,000 each. The other project on the list is the Capitol Avenue reconstruction. And that one we've talked more in depth about, and going back several years, approximately 6 years, when the previous sales tax was being discussed and projects were being formalized for that. One category was Old Town projects that came out of the discussion, and the total amount at the time put towards that, or put in the documents of the presentations, was $600,000 total, $300,000 each. Over that 5-year period, it was determined that Capitol Avenue would be that project. And what started off, years ago as just a simple street reconstruction and maybe some sidewalk improvements has grown to tie this area in with the MSP redevelopment area, and then also the interest generated on the Capitol Avenue houses and whatnot. And the project, has changed over the past few years, especially more recently this year as they've been doing the design work. I gave you a handout that kind of has where our budget numbers are for this year, and that top line says revenue. That should really say budget or budgeted amount, broken into 5 different categories or 5 different line items. And then expenses as we have them now for this year. The Helias Swifts project, the Algoa Railroad Spur extension, and then also, as we've just been talking about, the Capitol Avenue reconstruction. So, backing up just a little bit, originally kind of agreed to or committed to was $300,000 each for the Capitol Avenue or Old Town projects. There is some additional surplus in what's remaining of the cooperative project money, the $5.5 million coming from the county. It's a fluctuating number because we won't know the final until the stadium and Jefferson Street project is done. But it's somewhere in I got a number up there, $314,000 budgeted. So there's some additional money there, and what the city and we determined is where all these numbers kind of fit in with what was originally discussed or committed to. There's still some money remaining in the MSP-related projects category that this money probably should be spent in, or towards, or used towards. So, to summarize, we have the cooperative projects that we'd like to get an agreement on for this year. Capitol Avenue, Swifts, Myrtle Street reconstruction or improvements. We have an agreement, a city-county cooperative project agreement, and that prompted some discussion with you all about, is this the way we want to go with these agreements? Do we want to do them on a one project only agreement? Do we want to set, this is how much we're going to pay, period, and not anything that goes above that would be additional cost to the city, or are we going to keep it half and half? The other discussion would be, does the county commission want to agree to spend the extra money beyond the $300,000 originally discussed on the Capitol Avenue reconstruction project, or spend that elsewhere? And then looking at the budget, we're really tight on if we can make this work. We're showing that it will, assuming things come in as budgeted as far as the bid, projects as bid. If they come in at that amount or a little under, we look like we're going to be okay, but it is pretty tight. So I would let David say anything else about the Capitol Avenue project, because that seems to be the biggest one in discussion right now.
Right.
Sorry,
Well,
Matt.
and,
Sorry.
yeah, and I guess for just going back on the history, back in 15, I think, we had meetings, I thought we had a meeting with the commission back then, 2015, where we had met with the Old Town folks and did some discussion of Bill Freeman and Ron Benine and that group that makes up Old Town. And there was some discussion of what Old Town would be, and then we had the MSP money left over, and so we didn't really have a place for it necessarily beyond the enhancements we did over here on the bridge. But so keeping all those commitments together, we everybody decided back then, I thought, that we would spend it on capital, and so that's what we've been proceeding under, that notion, and just got to design once we got done with Stadium and Jefferson. So that's kind of how just a quick history from our perspective, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think Eric, you covered it pretty well, and certainly we'd be happy to answer questions about it if you had some.
So I think we're good on the Myrtle Street project, but we'd like for the agreement to be a standalone agreement. And we'd like to just cut you a check for $250,000 and tell you guys to go for it. But then we're all in, and we don't, that's up to you guys to manage. And I think we've had some issues with, just getting documentation from you guys and that we can follow. I know I have. I mean, I look at that and I can't follow your project the way it goes, and nor do we really care to. We just like to say, here's our half, and here you go. And then obviously if you don't do the project, we'd like the money back. So I don't think that'll be an issue. But then going forward on capital, some of our discussions have been that we'd like to do something similar, just like we've done with Myrtle. And I hope I'm speaking for myself, but I think we've talked. So anyway, we'd like to give you guys a sum of money, and so you don't have to turn in bills to us. It's just an agreement, and then obviously if that agreement were to go over, then you would come back to us and say, okay, this wasn't enough. And so that way it just streamlines everything. You guys don't have to turn in paperwork to us. You guys are running the project, you're managing the project. Here's our portion, we're in, we'll write you a check, and then you guys disperse the funds as the project progresses. Is that kind of what we had talked about?
Yeah.
So I don't know, obviously Capitol Avenue hasn't bid yet, so we really don't know what that project is gonna cost, do we?
Well, it's out to advertise right now.
Right. So,
Yeah, and our estimate is, it should be within the electrical's a little difficult for us to estimate since we don't do it all the time. But
right.
I would like a little more mention though too on city county, because on TV last weekend, they kept talking about the Myrtle Swifts, and it was just city. County doesn't get mentioned, so I thought, well, maybe we don't have to pay money in. So, yeah, and that's a small thing, but it seems like sometimes we kind of get left out, and we're paying for halves. So I'd like to be city county.
Yeah, I do try to mention that
Yeah,
at meetings
yeah,
too, where the
yeah.
money comes from. Now what gets reported, I don't have that a lot of
Yeah.
control over, but.
Well, I mean, the press is always right and honest. And, so if it's you see it on TV or on Facebook or in the paper, it's got to be true.
Wow. It's okay to misquote him.
We do have a sign we put up, and I guess you can still have those signs, Cooperative Project,
Yeah.
and it's got our logos on it, both of ours, so.
Yeah, that's in the agreement that Larry and I are supposed to make that happen.
So one of the other things that we did discuss too is that, after completing the Lafayette Street overpass, the county put in a sizable amount of money to do the enhancements down there. And then we get down to the end, and, obviously the lighting wasn't complete. And so, we felt like we had put in plenty to do the enhancements, and then we get down to the lighting, and anyway, it would have been nice had the city picked up the additional lighting, but then, you know, it was basically thrown back on us. Okay, you guys have already put in over $1 million, but now we want to split the extra cost of the lighting. So, you know, obviously we did that, but, you know, sometimes there is some give and take, and you know, it just seems like sometimes it's a bank of coal.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the purpose of our sheet here. We try to, you know, so one person's facilitating. I think the county took the lead on that one, and so at the end of the project, if there's any overruns, then we account for them and then split the money back out until we get to the 5 million. So, you know, we did some other projects up front with our, you know, the city funds, but we still split it at the end, so it all comes out, and that's what, you know, this is kind of a busy sheet to describe all that, but I think, you know, David and Eric are doing a good job of really keeping track of it together, so we don't get, I mean, yeah, you may have to put the money like you did fronted the whole money on the million, and then the city did the mold remediation for the MSP and fronted that money, so that was the decision at the time, but certainly we always try to make it level at by the end of it, or the next project is what the goal is.
Right. So I guess the next discussion becomes on what are we willing to put in for the Capitol Avenue project, and you know, some of the enhancements and stuff there. You know, and what have we committed to actually doing the roads and the sidewalks, or the lighting and the electric and all that other stuff? Is that something that we're willing to contribute to, or is that something that's outside of our scope? And I'm not saying what we've decided either way, but it's just been some discussion. So.
I did have it was at 600,000 at one time, because we said we was gonna do 300,000. I've been kinda adamant about, I'm not paying for park benches, lights and trees and stuff. So how much of this is for road, curb, sidewalks versus the lighting and electrical?
I did
Y'all
have
have that broke out?
the thing I sent you all, it's been a little while ago, that the city had provided. And I guess you guys aren't gonna know for sure what that is until it's bid. There's some
You got that,
unknown
Jeff?
with the electrical.
Not yet.
I'll send it to you.
They are, part of the project is to remove all the trees and put in new trees. That's kind of
Send it to you.
a gray area, because to do the project anyway, you'd have to take out the trees.
Oh, I see.
Now, you probably wouldn't have to put new trees back in. That would be maybe an additional thing that wouldn't be necessary on our part. But it is to beautify and make sure the new road and everything fits with the surroundings. You would do that on the city's part. That's 100,000 right there, but it's remove and replace. Like I said, you're not gonna know what the actual costs are gonna be until it's bid. Road, sidewalk, storm, 560,000. That would be exactly what we would contribute to normally. Lighting and
There we
electric.
go. There's our 600,000. We'll do half of that. Or 300.
Lighting and electric. The lighting, yeah, you could put in standard street lights or whatever. Their lights are more decorative to match the downtown lights, and consistent with that theme. So, you know, that, to find what the actual difference is, we're not gonna know that.
Now, it was pointed out to me, and I'm just, hate to interject while you're, but the lighting we have downtown compared to the lighting they put in the 100 block of Dunklin, there's about $8,000 per light difference. The lighting on Dunklin.
Well,
was-
these aren't the downtown lighting exactly.
Okay, so
They don't
we're-
exist anymore.
Okay.
And so they're more
Yeah.
like you see right here by the Babbitt building. We did that project with
Okay.
them, split that with them. So it is a cheaper
Yeah.
light, if you will, but that's what exists.
Okay. I looked at the ones on Dunklin, I think they look really
very
pretty,
similar.
they
Yeah,
look
it's-
pretty nice. And if they're $8,000 per light less than what we've got here, I'm like,
Yeah, I don't know that.
8,000 less or
I imagine they're
8,000
8,000
less?
different,
Less.
but anyway, they might be.
Less.
All city street projects, we have to have lighting go back, so it's a
Yeah.
matter of the standard. You know, we had a lot of community meetings, and the Old Town folks were really, I think, said that this needed to be historic looking. So
Mhm.
we've been, meeting with various groups for the last couple of years, trying to, keep everybody within a certain range, but certainly it kind of goes back to what you said earlier, that, sometimes, some of these projects we've paid up front for more lighting and stuff, and maybe you've paid for the road, but it still ends up about 50-50 in the end, or it does end up 50-50 time we get to the end of it, is what our goal is, so.
Jeff, you mentioned the county not wanting to participate with park benches, bus shelters, bike racks, that kind of thing. The transit,
yeah.
Jeff City
And,
Transit, they are contributing 90,000, is that?
Or 100, it's actually 100.
We have 100,000 placeholder for those enhancements from the transit, which isn't the 50-50 split, because.
That was just me. I didn't.
Well, I'm just saying that.
That would
we
be
were-
taken out of the
We
50-50
identified
split.
that as well, but one of our
That's
drivers
just a
is.
personal thing. It's a road and bridge thing. That's what I think it should go towards. I think we said 300,000 for it. My fear is that if we take and we throw another 500,000 at this, okay, it's probably a little less now. You got 1.6 and 1.5 for 2. If you start throwing more at that, then our High Street project falls off again, and that is not gonna happen.
No, it's not gonna happen.
Duncan Street, we've been talking about that for 10 years now, okay, 8 years. I've been up here. I don't want that falling off. So I'd rather sit back and save some of that money, because I have a feeling those are gonna come in more than what we're estimating too. That's my fear. And so then we lose that money. We don't have any more wiggle room. And, I mean, we've had pretty good luck with it. I haven't watched all your all's projects to see where they land, but Eric's bids and stuff, or the engineer bids compared to what we actually get, have been really good. I know we ran into some problems out there on Business 50, but that was some totally unforeseen, because we even recorded that to see what we had coming, and it was worse than what we thought. So, I mean, what's gonna happen on capital if we only give 300? Are y'all gonna stop that project?
Well, I would have to go back to the council and see what they want to do, but, I guess the council could fund more of it out of their category. It would be a cash flow issue for us at that time, but, yeah, I didn't realize, I guess, that there's also I guess the question I would need to ask for on my side is, what is your intention, at least for the remaining MSP money out of the old sales tax, the 225-ish roughly, to get to the 5.5 that each entity committed to in the previous sales taxes. Most of this is out of the previous sales taxes, so there's a chunk of money there, I think as Eric pointed out, that hasn't been spent up to yet in the old sales tax. So this was the, back, I thought in April, I looked it up, I had a little sheet here we did in April 15, where to get back everybody to the 5.5 million that we talked about. Well, we would take the remaining MSP monies at the end of the project, any contingencies we had left over, to get everybody rounded up to the 5.5 million. So I didn't know if you guys had a particular thing you wanted to spend that on, if you're not gonna spend it on this now. I mean, I don't wanna go back and put words in your mouth, so I wanna make sure I get my answers right in front of you.
I got a proposal for you. So we own a rail spur inside of Jefferson City limits out there at Militia Drive. That it's something that we'd like for the city to take ownership of, and we could help maintain it, but we don't feel like we should be owning a rail spur in the city. So anyway, I know you guys own the crossing, but anyway, we'd like to transfer ownership of that to you guys and have that as part of your infrastructure. And anyway, so.
Is there, would you maintain it halfway? Part of the transfer? We spend
I
considerable
think-
money testing the
Right.
crossing every year.
I think we'd be willing to cooperate on some of that, but anyway, it's just something that's come to our attention with what's the bagging place out there? Morris, yeah,
Packaging.
with the Morris Packaging is, obviously that's part of one of our projects here too, but anyway, it's just It's one of those things, it's just kind of like a road. Why would the county maintain a road inside the city limits of Jefferson? So that's kind of the same thing, but anyway. I mean, I'd like to see that happen, and we could cooperate on the maintenance of it or whatnot, but, anyway. So, just throw that out there.
I thought we were at 600,000 as our part on
Well, we had,
capital.
and originally, and maybe this
Yeah.
little sheet here, this is what I found yesterday.
There's some old numbers out there. We were thinking
Yeah.
back last year, we were gonna have about 350 left over in the old
Yeah.
sales tax. And so, and at the time, David, or the city's estimate was about 1.3 million, so
Yeah.
that would cover it.
Back in 15, of course, that was predates you, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else, or you guys got in there. But, you know, we come and give you little updates
Right.
periodically, and so, if you look at David's sheet, you know, they said, they put together, you know, these were estimates and very round numbers, I like to tuck in, but, so this is the more detailed, I suppose, in Eric's sheet. But we said, okay, so I kind of highlighted at that time, Capitol Avenue, just money that might be available, so we could do a nicer project in Old Town.
I don't have the right sheet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got Stadium in Jefferson, I was totally lost.
Did I get you that?
I was gonna have to call General again.
I gave you that. And kind of some of the numbers, it used to be, I
That
made
makes
some
more
copies.
sense.
Used to be red and green, you can kind of see the green. But anyway, the green was kind of what we had done at the time. This was a couple years ago now, but, you know, you see the Lafayette MSP related stuff, and then we still hadn't rounded out our total to 4 million at that time. So we said, well, but this is pre-lighting, remember everybody? So we said 761, then Old Town, the 600. Then we said, okay, so we built some contingencies in there, and this Stadium in Jefferson thing with some estimates. But it had STP money and all kinds of other things in there, so it's kind of a little bit of moving target. We said, okay, if we do it and all these things come out as bid, and we don't have to close them out, then we'd have about, you know, the money, I didn't add it up here on this sheet, but it was 600 plus, you know, about 1.9 million at the time. So we said, okay, we know we got, you know, when you do any project, you take on risk. Stadium in Jefferson, it's not done yet, but it's getting where the risk is getting pretty low at this point. So anyway, so rounding those numbers out, you know, we've updated this obviously since then, but this is what we kind of talked about with the Old Town folks, and I believe we came up to the county at the time and kept do this, but I could be wrong. But we talk about it a lot at the Public Works Committee level at the city, so normally we would come back up here at this time of year.
What's not on there though is that rail spur.
Right, the rail spur came in and later, and the city funded some money towards it as well, you know, so half of that. And we didn't take the rail spur out of the city-county projects. The city funded it outside of the capital improvement money. They just funded it out of the general fund, as I recall. And so your half is still in for projects in the city on the new sheet, but this is a couple years old at the time. To that, and of course, the lighting and everything has been worked into this since. But so that's what, you know, we were just going off of what we talked about back then, trying to, you know, as we went through the project. And at that time, we even talked about maybe getting an out-of-house design for it. But, you know, as some of these other projects popped up, we said, well, we freed up some engineer time in our staff, so we went ahead and just designed it to save some money there to have a little nicer project. So those are all things we contribute to. So. But that's how, you know, how we got to where we are, is from my perspective. And so I guess we're going to do something different. We'll have to see what the council wants to do.
So you're asking for 600,000 for capital outlay?
Well, we're asking for half of the whatever the project bids at, which our estimate's at 1.6 million. At
Yeah,
this
about
point.
800,000.
We're taking 100,000 out of transit, so
Well,
really it's
okay,
1.5.
half of 1.5, because 100,000 of it we're taking from somewhere else for those enhancements, some of the pedestrian things.
Sheriff's subtotal's 1,525. And then if you take out vegetation.
Well, that's kind of like a right-of-way issue. I mean, if we take people view those as their trees, whether they're street trees or not. If we take out somebody's rose bush, we try to give them a rose bush back, trying to be good neighbors on projects. So we'll have to incur those costs one way or another. I assume you guys do something similar on your projects, but when we do,
All right, we can put replacing there on that one. I'll leave that one in there. Lighting, electric, you got $500,000 in there for that. Painting and signs.
well, I just like, we try to break those out as a more detailed estimate on all projects. So, you know, and David actually, and I think probably Eric, I think you've been using similar bid tabs lately, haven't you all? Is that as we move through projects, you know, if we have all the bid tabs and people keep bidding them, then as we go, we keep adding them back together and trying to get an average number. That's how we kind of keep track of making our estimate good. So that's how it's all broken down like that. But if you build any road or bridge, you're gonna put signs on it and various things and lights and striping and all of those things that go along with it. We just break it out so we can see it. I mean, we can put it in the background, but that's how the engineers figure out the estimates, really. And the contractors are used to bid under that way too. It helps for the bids.
Was any of that wayfinding money that we're getting the signs, that was any of that
No, it's
saved for Capitol Avenue?
No, but we did talk about that internally the other day, and what we're
Okay.
probably planning on doing, just so you all know, just more information, is there could be some signs on Capitol Avenue, as well as our roundabout we're all working on over here at Stadium and Jefferson. And so what we're gonna do is try to get those just out of our own sign money in our street department and add those to our projects as we go. So, you know, I think the question was asked of us the other day, are we gonna continue those projects? Well, we are, but it's gonna be more of an in-house thing. So as we do road projects, we'll say, well, could we add a wayfinding sign that looks like all the rest of them? And we'll just order those direct and not put them in the bid, because, you know, that's a specialty item. It just, time the contractor figured out who to bid, we'd have to babysit it all the way through. It's just easier for us to do it ourselves. So I think there's 2 signs that we're talking about adding to Capitol Avenue. Once the project's kind of, where it's near completion, we'd add those wayfinding signs to there.
So on the Capitol Avenue design, I mean, there's obviously some crosswalks in here and some other areas, and I mean, I'm just looking at the plan, but anyway, is that stamped asphalt, or, I mean, is that the crosswalks and even the parking areas, or is that something different?
Right, the crosswalks are going to look like the crosswalks that are on High Street here in the downtown area, so they would be a stamped, painted asphalt. What we're looking for in the parking lanes to differentiate them from the driving lanes and to kind of establish try to make it feel like it's a narrower street to increase the, you know, pedestrian activity, which is certainly what we're hoping to be able to do on this stretch.
Slow the speed.
Slow the speed down. We're looking at those to be a stamped concrete in the parking lanes to differentiate them from the driving lanes.
Similar to Lafayette has a bump out for a parking lane of concrete. That's the way our standard was there. And even on Capitol, if you get past Lafayette, you'll notice it went from asphalt to a concrete parking lane. That way in the future, you don't have to overlay those. You're kind of done with it and move on.
So 752 is the approximate number, or 765, 62, 762.5.
That's half.
Yeah, as a round number, it's,
Right.
you know, we haven't got the bid yet, but it's
Right.
roughly half of 1.5 million, because again, some of those, a lot of those amenities are being paid for the transit. The reason I want to make everybody clear, the reason we're doing that, so I don't get in trouble either, is, well, we have a lot of folks at the Hamilton Dooley Tower area that, you know, utilize that crosswalk in that area. They also ride the bus. The bus picks them up right there. And so it seemed like a good fit for our transit folks to help contribute a little extra, some of those extra amenities, because those are our ridership numbers are fairly high out of there. So trying to make that accessible as we can for those folks. You know, when they get there, they can sit down and wait on the bus and things like that. So.
I think it's a good project, and I think it's MSP related, so if we
Yeah.
had the money left over, I don't know, kind of being ornery about it, but the High Street thing is very high on my list.
Yeah,
are
mine
you talking about
too.
the sidewalks, Jeff? that
Veteran
we
to
talked
Cherry
about?
Street.
Yeah,
all that
that's.
stuff, so.
Right, and you know, going back to, I probably brought a copy of that, and just, we probably haven't been up here and talked about this in a while, but the way we've done it in the past, I always hate to say that because we can always change, is so, this is what got approved from the council level, David and I and Eric, and I guess Larry work off of, but there, what's different about this sales tax than past ones is that there's not very many actually named things in this list. It's more categories, except but for, if you look at it, and I didn't bring copies of this, I just had it on my own thing. But,
You got the Dunklin corridor.
yeah, you got the
High
Duncan
Street.
corridor, which is the bridge we're talking about, and then the East IC improvements, and then also the Clark Avenue interchange, so you guys got that too. So certainly, we like, you know, it's always good to keep your commitments. If you have a listed project that is in a sales tax brochure or the public voted on thinking I'm getting those, at least those three things by name, we're certainly going to do everything we can to get them done, so.
Well, I'm with Jeff. That's gotta be done, so.
Yeah.
So it's gotta be
And
next.
We've actually
Yeah.
started surveying on it internally. We're planning on doing it in-house design, and just, I had a lot of comments from councilmen asking me about it. So we've got our surveyors, it's on their list to go start surveying it, and just so everybody, I get the comment, well, it was on a list before. Well, we did do a project out there, and that was right when I arrived at the city, and they, and not to say that other people had, you know, bad ideas or anything, but you know, there were a lot of sewer work in that job, tons of retaining walls, and the way they were changing the street grade cost a ton of money. That's just the bottom line of it. And what was happening was they were trying to drop the sewer, it was all in rock. You can imagine trying to sewer the houses that have basements there. Well, this project isn't that project. So what it is basically focusing on the retaining walls that are dilapidated and the sidewalk repair. And maybe we've overlaid it and took care of that road since, so maybe less emphasis, and there really would be no sewer work. We've done all the sewer work repair in the area through lining and things since. And so that was one of the first projects. It was basically handed to me to go get this done, and so we only had a certain amount of money. We worked on either end of it. We worked on up by where the Sheriff's Association, I think it's called, our police.
No, it's Sheriff, it's Missouri Sheriff's Association.
Our Sheriff's Association building, we worked on about a block of it there. We worked on the other block at Vetters Lane down to McCarty. That's all farther the money would go. So the idea was, well, we'd come back in a future sales tax and do the piece in between, but it'd be a more focused project on sidewalks and retaining walls and things like that. And so now that it's listed in another sales tax, that's our goal. So we think we can do the walls cheaper by doing modular block. Those are all designed as concrete retaining walls. They look nicer for the neighborhood, things like that. You know, there was probably some things with steps in there going to houses that were maybe don't even exist nowadays. So, so we'll have to look at all those issues, and of course we'll have public meetings and things and let the public have some input. But you know, the focus would be getting on the sidewalks and the retaining walls, not all the rest of that stuff.
Yeah, I understand all that. And we don't
Okay.
have the $5.5 million sitting here in our bank. You don't have $5.5 million in your bank.
Right.
It's a 5-year revenue stream, so the projects come and go over that 5 years. Just wanted to make sure you know where I'm coming from on it. I think Sam spoke on that, and I'm not sure exactly what Chris has on the west side that he's pushing for, but that's a big one on my list. Being MSP related, in 2013, we said that $4 million was going to MSP related projects. You're saying out of that we have 300,000 left, right?
It's a moving number,
265.
Plus the old town.
Right,
Together.
give or take,
So-
right.
It's in the, it's,
Contingencies.
Yeah, I'm
Jeff,
fine with using that for MSP related projects.
to help with your question about High
What you want
Street,
to have.
getting that done and making sure that gets done, this list that Matt showed you, that is broken into those 4 categories. Any additional funds out of the new sales tax going towards Capitol Avenue would come out of the improved roadway safety category that has a total 1.2 million in it. High Street is in the maintenance improvement of existing infrastructure, 4.6.
Yeah,
million.
different
So,
category, yeah.
You know, we,
I know, but if something overruns or something falls off, or we put it all in there now, and High Street costs more, then we're sitting there going, well, it costs more than what we thought 3 years ago, and we can't do it.
One other point, if I could, on the MSP, just so everybody's clear, I see, have people here. Why would we spend MSP money there is, one reason is we all went through the wayfinding thing, or the city went through this big wayfinding project. So a lot of that was focused on pulling people off the Katy Trail into the city, tourism, that kind of thing. They do run down here at the CBBs located on this end of the project. The whole prison theme and getting people to the concerts and various things. So that corridor is an active tourism corridor, if you will. Wayfinding is important, as you pointed out. And so just enhancing that and making it look nice. And that's, again, why we got the bicyclist, area on there. All of those things lead back to, we anticipate a lot more traffic moving back and forth in this corridor to get to MSP functions, things of that nature. So that's why it's related to MSP, I guess, just so everybody's, that was our thought anyway.
I'm just hesitant to say we're gonna pay half. That's just where I'm at. I'm willing to go to 300,000 that we committed to from the get-go. If we have MSP related, and what was the other one?
Old Town.
Old Town, if we have funds left over from them, I'm fine with putting that towards it. And I would really like to talk about the railroad spur. I think that's a good point that Chris brought up. So, what are y'all needing from us today?
Well,
Check?
No. Well, I think we had this agreement that basically we had an estimate that we'd each pay half of this, 1.5 million. So the bid will come in. It's on the council agenda. I guess we could delay the agreement. It's been first read. Of course, we knew we were coming up here. I didn't realize that this issue would pop up like this. So I guess we could delay that on the council agenda for another meeting. It's 2 weeks out. But we'd like to have some agreement, our thought that as we're bidding these, so we don't, we get a bid in we can't afford to do just without all the partners' money.
The Elias project, that's
in the agreement
as well, right?
Yeah, and their goal is to get that done by the time the sports season starts with their stadium and everything else. And so, and Elias seems committed to it. And so that's another agreement on the agenda. So we have two agreements on that one on the council. One is the city-county agreement for the half, and then the other one is actually with Elias and us contractually how we're gonna get that done. So, and just so you all are aware that it does, in the agreement with us and Elias, says the maximum contribution is $500,000 that the city and county would contribute. So, any overruns is on them at that point, so it's in their hands to get that done.
Question on Myrtle. How's the window? Are we gonna have stadium done before we start doing Myrtle? Are they both gonna be going on at the same time?
Why don't you talk about the picture? That's what we made a
'Cause
picture
that's-
since we were here last
that's-
time. Oh, you mean stadium at the Wilbur?
Stadium there, is that gonna be kinda done before you start doing Myrtle, or, cause otherwise people trying to go east and west there, it's,
Right, the projects are going to have to overlap, unfortunately.
okay.
So ultimately, what we're imagining at this point, if you've made it that far down Stadium, we're ultimately going to have to use Carter Street as the way from Stadium up to Swifts Highway to get you back over to Jefferson.
On one leg of it.
Right. And that's just during that'll be during two different phases of that project, when the western leg of Stadium is closed, and which will be beginning at the beginning of the summer, and then also when that would be the way to get around when we have the northbound leg of Jefferson closed, which would be at the end of the summer.
So when school starts, it'll be,
When school starts, the roundabout will be finished.
yeah,
And
like I
so-
say, Trinity and Elias and it.
Right, so all that's going to happen, the project at the roundabout is going to start up again after the state track meet is over, which is the 28th of May. And then contractually, the contract is expired on the 15th of August. So that's how the roundabout at Stadium and Jefferson is schedule is laid out. talking with Helias, certainly their intention is probably to begin that project as soon as all the agreements are signed. And then their intention is to have it ready for the opening of school and/or football season this fall.
So over the summer, yeah, it's gonna be
Okay.
a pain
Okay.
for folks, but at least the school traffic's like.
I think the commission is okay with that project.
Oh, yeah.
Would you agree to do that agreement separate? And I don't have the document ready to sign, we'd have to revise it, but, I mean, we could do that at the next commission meeting. And then, what I'm kind of gathering, maybe the thing to do on capital would be to wait to see where the bids come in at, where we know for sure what the cost is, and we can break things out, have unit bid prices where you can categorize things a little bit better maybe, and then you can see where the things fit, or where do you all need to be on your end as far as awarding the project and have it
Well,
in place?
right, I mean, we're at a point that, we've made some commitments to, getting this thing built this year. If we have to, wait until we get the bid in, and then if it were to come to pass that then there was a disagreement about the funding of it, which could then delay the project another couple of months, then suddenly we're not going to get it done this year. So that kind of puts us in a little bit of a pickle in terms of the timing.
But I thought we were at about 600,000 for our part, but I see some of the emails and it went from 1.2 to 1.4 to, is this the final?
Well, the plan, I mean, the estimate is the 1.6, but the 100,000 is a different pool of money, so it's really half of 1.5 at this point.
Okay.
750,000, city and county, essentially.
I'm okay with proceeding with the Myrtle and Elias project, but I think we're gonna have to look at the capital object or our project. I can't write a check for $750,000 if I don't have $750,000. And I don't see where that's coming from right now. I don't remember ever saying we were doing half of it either. We was maybe doing half of it when it was 600,000. So I'm trying to catch up on emails on this. I mean, you've answered all my questions, Matt, I appreciate that, but I'm still struggling with where this other almost $1 million came from. I'm not following, I don't have.
Well, it's the MSP monies that's left over from the old sales tax.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that, but on the project initially, I thought it was around 600,000, and we committed to half of that, which was the 300, and now we're at $1.5 million, actually $1.6 million, and the JC Transit's putting in 90, so what we're splitting is the 1.5.
Well, I mean, looking back at the literature from the sales tax, I mean, ultimately, Capitol Avenue wasn't actually named. It wasn't actually a named project. It was just Old Town projects. In that 5 years of iteration, it became the Capitol Avenue project, and so.
Well, it's much like the MSP projects and that. It's just, when we started talking with Old Town more specifically what they'd like to see, it was like, well, we combined with an MSP project in Old Town as well, have a much nicer project for the community. So that's how it came to be. So anyway.
I apologize, I'm not finding it. I've got bazillions of emails on this stuff, and I'm not finding where we had any talk of bringing it from 600,000 to 1.5. Have y'all seen that, or, I'm trying to follow my path here.
When we prepared our budget back in August, we had it set that the 300, the original 300, half of 600 was in there. And then we were projecting at that time 350,000 left over of the MSP pot that wasn't gonna be spent, that still was of the original 5.5 million. That money that amount of money left over, we had it thrown in there capital reconstruction, so $650,000 total. And I don't remember the exact discussion at the time, but it seems like there was a hesitancy on the commission's part to put money into a decorative project, or whatever you want to call it. So we just took that money and put it into a reserve, just called it Cooperative Project Reserve. And I think that's where it's just sat since then, and that
But
number
we're at
went down.
650 there, right?
Yeah, that number, that cooperative reserve went down to 300.
So now we're at 600, and they still want half of 1,525.
Well, I'd been saying the 1.2 million, so that's what I was.
Yeah, we don't know until we get the final estimates put
Yeah.
together, and then we still don't know until we get the bid, but just, through the process, we're trying to, get information from the community on what they'd like to see in a project, and like I said, I think we have said that to do the project we have here would again come out of the about 200 each out of the new sales taxes. So that's where the extra is coming from, if we're going to do that. And had a meeting with the council, I don't know, a few months ago now, several months ago maybe, that said, okay, if folks, if we're not happy with the bids, the obvious way to make the bid lower is to delete the lighting just right off the top. You could still do the project with that, but you have to have some lighting there, obviously. And at the time, the council at the committee level said, no, I think the community's expectation is that's going in as part of the project. Go ahead and bid it, and we'll see how it comes in. So we're just trying to give everybody kind of a realistic, we're out for these bids. Don't be shocked by this number that comes back, And so we're trying to be realistic about the number. And but if it's not what people want to do, then we won't do it.
That project still is more than double what it was. And that's because the people along that stretch want that much more in it. If I got X amount of dollars for groceries, that's all groceries I can get. I gotta put the steak back away. And this right here it's not just your, beans and rice. This is steak and potatoes and, dessert. So if we gotta cut back somewhere, you gotta cut back, or it just falls off the list, the way I see it. At some point, you gotta get the spending in check on it. I mean, this one here is like the Cadillac style. And, we got a bunch of Cadillacs sitting around Fords right now. No offense against Fords, but
I like Fords.
I like whatever I'm driving, as long as it gets me there, so. But I'm not driving a Cadillac here. So, this is the Cadillac model, not correct? It's pretty elaborate. There's some
Say
fancy
it's pretty
lighting,
elaborate. It's
some fancy parking, fancy bike lanes. I don't know, I drive down Interstate B and we have bikes on that road and nobody's gotten killed yet, but down on the 30-mile-per-hour straight stretch here, we have to have bike lanes for it. I don't understand that, but, so, I don't know, that's just where I'm at. I'm fine with taking the leftover money from MSP-related projects. That way you can do a little more with it, make it a little nicer, because it is a corridor from the Capitol and the Katy Trail to MSP, and we want to try to promote that, and that's economic development, so that'd be great. But I just feel like this is pretty elaborate, and it can be scaled back a little bit if we need to. That's where I'd like to see it go. I'm not saying no, we won't do half, but if we do half, it's got to be a number, because it keeps getting bigger each time that I see it.
Would you like us to get the bids and then come back?
I was just speaking for
Delay the
one.
agreement.
That might not be bad, Matt.
Well, I can ask that the city put the agreement on the informal calendar. I think it'll take a meeting because we probably still have to get our bids, so I'm not sure how that dovetails with.
Well, we probably just amend the agreement to keep the.
Yeah, we'd
to
have
keep
to do
the-
an amendment.
We just do a substitute to keep the Myrtle Street going
And add one
and then
back.
create a
Okay.
new one.
Yeah, okay, that's right. We'd like to keep the Myrtle Street going.
Yeah, I'd still look at the lighting on
lights
Dunklin.
out.
See, that was just pointed out, I'm like, boy, if you can save $8,000 per light, that's,
That number
I don't know what those light
those
poles
lights would
cost, but
$8,000.
geez.
Yeah, The lights are about $8,000 total, so you couldn't get the other one for a zero, so.
Why not?
It's good.
Okay.
I think it's a good project. I mean, let's just see where the bids come in, and then we'll see how much money we can come up with, so.
Well, to keep Myrtle going, do you want the city to bring an amendment or a separate agreement back just for Myrtle?
Yeah, we can get the lawyers to trade the agreement that just has Myrtle, and then we'll amend it at the council meeting. You guys can approve it a lot faster than we can, so that's pretty easy to do. And we won't have to come back for that one. But we'll go ahead and get the bids and delay the other one on the council agenda, the agreement, until we get the bid number.
So we can get the Myrtle Street project on the agenda for next Tuesday. That'd be the 14th, and then
Wednesday.
David.
Wednesday, yeah.
15.
Yeah, we got a weird week next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because of me. I'm
The
sorry.
bid date on Capitol is the 24th. We'll be up here anyway at the 28th commission meeting, so we can put it on the agenda for discussion then. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Let's do that. All right.
Yep. Thought working with 10 councilmen was a pain.
Should mention that.
I used to work at a county commission, for county highway, before this job.
What county did you work for, Matt?
I was Hamilton
I mean, we're
County,
gonna start that
Indiana.
next month,
Okay.
next week, or next month.
Which is the north side of Indianapolis, so we got in our discussions.
Eric, I don't like
trust
that
me.
grin right now.
I like grinning. Very suburban county.
Jerry's learning, working with the county
Just to let you
commission.
know, it will be coming soon. Clark Avenue, that project will be coming around next month to do something on that.
Which one there?
The Clark Avenue project.
Traffic study.
Yeah.
Through Campo, we're gonna put in a request to use STP funds of 95,000, give or take.
93, I think.
To put towards design for that, to get that project going. Not related to these, but just so you know, that's the next one.
A city, county,
Is that
cooperative.
gonna try to take care of Elm too? Or is that just gonna be Dunklin there?
Dunklin, Clark Avenue, that intersection, as well as the ramp terminals and everything else associated with the
So that will
interchange.
bring in Elm into that too then?
Yeah.
Well, this traffic study will likely go from McCarty over to past Dunklin,
Okay.
just to see, it's all gotta work together.
It's gotta work together.
Yeah,
I'll be
so,
curious to see how that is all gonna work.
yeah, I mean,
together.
it's
mess
a
over there.
significant
Oh, yeah.
traffic study.
There's so much traffic going down East Elm. It's,
The traffic don't bother me, it's the people crossing roads you gotta watch out for.
And
I mean,
I
they're
just-
like playing Frogger with their own lives through there.
So I did-
You remember Frogger, Sam? They had that back in your day?
no, we played jacks and marbles and my sisters jump rope.
You're gonna bring that up
That's
here
a
so you
good
can play it.
point just back to that High Street thing, we talked about these named projects, but we didn't know we were gonna have $90,000+ available that might be available to us to stretch our budgets. And so when that popped up the other day at Campo, Eric and I happened to be sitting by each other, and we kinda leaned over and said, hey, let's just get the Clark one going. And that, so, they kinda do switch order based on when these things come up like that sometimes.
That'll
I mean,
make that
unless we don't want the
citizens group
90,000.
over there really happy too.
Yeah, and so.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee we're gonna get that. It's gonna have to be presented to Campo
Yeah.
and voted on.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a good possibility.
I think we got 4 voters here in the one
There's
meeting.
4 of us here.
So where does the High Street project stand? I mean, if you're doing Clark next, where does the High Street project stand?
Not saying we're doing Clark next.
Well, I realize that, but I mean, if you get the funds and you do the design, where does that put High Street at?
Well, ultimately, what we're talking about is actually just a traffic study.
Yeah.
There isn't enough money to actually build anything at this point. That would be a kind of a larger discussion, and the hope would be that we could attract MoDOT and get some cost share funds from MoDOT to actually do the construction. So as far as the effort that would need to go into the traffic study, certainly we would send out an RFQ, hire a consultant, work with that consultant contract, and get the study done. So in terms of,
Chris, this is a lot like what we did on Lafayette 20-plus years ago when we started that whole deal. The county provided a traffic study for 50 through that area, and this is just a step. We're not saying Clark's going to be built.
So High Street will be done before Clark.
Well, yeah, more
Yeah.
than likely, but I think I sent an email out to some of the council, and they might have got copied on some of the commissioners even, is that, I would estimate at least 2017 just to get the cash flow
Yeah.
working, because we haven't even really collected the dime yet at the city. So our sales tax lags, 4 months, I think? year or so. Realistically, it's more 2017 type project, but in between there, we start design, we'll be having public meetings, people will be know that it's coming, you know.
So it's 2017 now, so you're looking to maybe design for High Street later this year?
We'll get the survey done, we got a free engineer time out, that's the thing. So
Right.
we don't wanna go out for that. We could, but it'd make more sense for a sidewalk, that type project, is do it internally, save the money.
So I think from my standpoint, I mean, obviously things come up and we have to be a little bit nimble, but at the same time, we need to be focused on getting High Street done and what that time frame is. And if that's an 18 project, then that's one that I think we all want to see done. And obviously after Capitol Avenue and Myrtle, that would be the next one on the list. And I know there's talk about MSP Parkway and some other things too, but at some point there's only so many funds to fund so many projects, so. Okay.
We did play kick the can too, Jeff.
Okay, we'll move forward. If you can get us the memo, we'll get it approved. And as soon as we get the bids, we'll get with you and try and get that all worked out, so we keep everything trying to move forward. All right?
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Run, guys, run.
We want to play nice with each other. Jeff, you want to take a selfie real quick? Oh,
We don't have time, Sam. We gotta move on.
okay.
We got lunch.
Do we want to go back to the new employee pay?
No, go ahead and do, they're
Okay.
up here, so go ahead and finish theirs.
Okay, final closeout change order approval 2016 asphalt overlay program and Swift Road and Boise, Bruley Road gravel road update.
You have the spreadsheets in front of you for the two.
Yeah, it was a deduct,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
The
Connor?
asphalt overlay was a deduct, I'll just read it real quick. We would recommend approval of the change order with Higgins Asphalt Company on the 2016 asphalt overlay. And it's a deduct of $7,056.64. Any questions?
Would they lay a little thin or what?
We had to save money. When we estimate these, we're going on estimated quantities, using estimate factors.
Fine.
And you never know the variations. They're always gonna come in a little over, a little under. We try to get it as pretty close as possible. And everything tracked pretty good. So we got inspectors out there that watch it, make sure they're not laying. Usually the asphalt companies want to lay it a little thicker, so we make sure that they don't get too carried away with it. So that's a good number. Little higher, a little lower is always good. You get problems when you get into big overruns and you wonder why, and we try to keep it to where that doesn't happen, so. Recommend approval.
So do we need to approve the change order or the final closeout or both, or
Just the final closeout change order,
number one?
number one. Or however it's listed.
Was this for two different jobs or was it all the same?
Do them separately, they were just put on as one agenda item.
We've got
Two change orders.
Yep. We still have another change order to present after this.
Okay, so this is all one?
Yeah, it's just for the overlay
Okay.
project.
This is for Boise Bruley or?
This is for the 2016.
Oh, asphalt overlay, okay.
It's listed as one
Okay.
agenda item, but
That's
it's really
fine.
two things.
I move that we approve change order number one, final closeout for the asphalt, 2016 asphalt overlay program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now you got the Swiss Road
Okay,
and
the
Boise.
Swift Road, Boise Bruley Road gravel road upgrade. Original contract amount was $2,297,593.84. And if you recall, back in, give or take, May, we came to you with a proposed change order to do some additional work on Grove Road, which required a lot of excavation. That amount was $99,520. We agreed at that time that we would come back to you with a change order once we got a little further along in the project. There was also some additional miscellaneous work items that are in the change order document. Part of that, just miscellaneous odds and ends that come up on the course of the project. That totaled $5,975. But out of the base contract, we actually came in under by $42,086.04. So the net change on this is 63 on the pot, or it's an overrun of $63,408.96 for a final contract amount of $2,361,002.80, and I'd recommend approval of that. Any questions?
This was basically a lot of the rock excavation that we did. Was that correct?
The big change was the Grove Road, the 99,520. That was what that change order was for. But then if you look out on the spreadsheet out on the side, the over-under, we saved a lot in subgrade stabilization. We didn't need near as much as what we had originally anticipated. That's the majority of it. And then all the other items are kind of up and down depending on what the final amounts come in. The subgrade stabilization, when you add the geotextile in there too, that's about $48,000 that we saved by not needing to do as much of that. So that makes up the bulk of the deduct.
Right.
On the original amount.
But the big amount was the rock excavation on that Grove Road coming into.
That's where we took the vertical line
Right.
and brought it down.
Grove Road came into Boise Brewley there, and we knocked it down.
Yeah.
And we hauled all that,
We ended up
we hauled all that rock and stored it somewhere, didn't we?
We have that rock stockpiled for use on Blue Ridge Road, low water crossing project when we do that. So that'll be a savings that we'll see on that. Hopefully. It will be to some amount. We'll know that a little bit more when we get into that project.
You guys good with this?
Yes.
I move that we approve change order number 1, final closeout for the Swift Road and Boise Brewley Road gravel road upgrade project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Your employee pay?
Okay, I guess this was brought up because we had a position in ambulance that was wanting to pay more for years of experience, and we don't have a policy set up for that. I wasn't for it because I have an issue with it, because we're not doing that across the county. So, we're gonna do that for some people, or we just pick and choose how we're doing that. I'll pick on Debbie. She could have somebody come in as a senior finance, and maybe it's a CPA, and she's gonna wanna pay him more. It's not in the agenda, we're just gonna okay it. Where we're gonna draw the line at on this. I understand wanting to get somebody in there that's been a 20-plus year person, but if we're gonna do it for one, we've gotta do it for everybody. So, this one kinda went through a bunch of emails and stuff on it, there's the whole trail that goes with that, but, we're gonna let somebody that's been a deputy somewhere else for 20-plus years, we're gonna let John, if he comes in and asks for, paying him at midpoint, or we're gonna let him do that as well?
I probably would.
We're actually working on a salary line right now that would be able to do that.
But we don't do that right now.
No.
I think,
We have somebody
I
come
think
in
there's a
that
lot
can-
to be said for 20 years of experience
There's
in
also a lot to be said
law
about having a
enforcement,
budget.
or, well,
And there's policy and procedure that we've done in the past. If we're gonna bring people in, have more money, what does that tell the people that we have with us right now? They've been with us for 20 years. You're gonna bring somebody else in off the street, give them the same amount of money. That's just where I'm having issues with it, so. We can,
Can I butt in here?
yes.
First off, I think there is something to be said for qualifications and experience. Even if somebody's been here 20 years, they may not have the same level of experience or qualifications that somebody new has. It would be nice to see the county develop some type of policy that covers this.
Right. I didn't say not to have a policy or procedure.
Because right now, to me, there are issues when I open the paper and see a starting position advertised at higher than what I started that person at. So now my person's been here a year and still not making what another elected official is offered for starting position, and that causes trouble between offices and the employees that we have working in our offices. So I think something needs to be established that addresses starting salaries, hiring people with experience, with advanced degrees, obviously brings more to the table than somebody that doesn't have a degree at all. But it's always kind of a hit or miss. A lot of times based on who the elected official is or what the office is or whatever.
There's no policy or procedure for it right now. And we've said no to a lot of people that have had some, probably, I'd almost say overqualified people that they were wanting to bring in. We said no, there's a starting line, that's where we stuck with it at.
Well, I don't know, not knowing what those individual requests were, it's hard for me to say a whole lot about that, but I do think it is very worth, that it can be worth extra money to hire somebody that has the experience, just as Eric Peters ended up with a CPA as his.
And he asked for more money for the CPA. Did he get it?
Well, I don't know.
Not that I remember.
I think you need to look at the position and the responsibility of that individual too.
If you, that's what all of them are, the position. That's why we've got them being paid at that position. I mean, if you have a Commissioner 1 come in, and that's what you're gonna start him as. And you can't bring him in as a Commissioner 3 and make a Commissioner 3 pay because he's got the qualifications. If there's only a Commissioner 1 position open, that's what you're paying him at, is a position. So we can't be bringing in all these people that are really qualified as Commissioner 3s to be Commissioner 1s. Why have a budget then? We might as well just get rid of the budget and say, hey, go ahead and just don't even have a Commissioner 1, 2, and 3. And I think when we talked about what you're wanting to try to do, and ambulance is doing the same thing, is to have steps, have them something to look forward to, pay them more. I think we did Public Works a little bit a couple of years ago, changed it up a little bit, so that way, even if they're coming in as Commissioner 1, I got something to look forward to be Commissioner 3. If you bring in Commissioner 3s, you're gonna have all Commissioner 3s. I'm just using Commissioner, nobody wants to be Commissioner 1 or 3. So. Well, some days, but only when you're voting on.
I don't disagree with you, Jeff. I think, we need to have some kind of a policy and as far as how to do this, but, obviously we need to be able to pay people a little more for some experience, and, we're not just paying for position, we are paying for experience, because the starting pay at EMS, very few people make the starting pay. So we're not just paying for an EMT or a paramedic, we're paying for experienced EMTs or experienced paramedics, and the pay range is all over the place. And the bigger picture over there, and Jerry sent us a little article about it, is the overtime. And, the overtime in Kansas City was like $9 million. And so
That's Kansas City.
Right.
Kansas City's jacked up the way it is.
Well, I get that,
So-
but our overtime is
Ours
a
is
big number too,
Ours
so.
is jacked up too. I'm not disagreeing, not near that much, but.
Right.
I don't compare to, I appreciate the article, Jerry, but I don't compare to Kansas City. I don't even.
Well, but I think it goes to the state of the industry and where the overtime is, for emergency
Well, if it's
services.
state of the industry, if it's just a thought process, we can have this job that starts out paying this much, and if we keep getting the overtime and booking the overtime, and somebody's gonna have control of it, and I think Jerry's done a great job of working on that, so. And now, I feel bad sitting here telling, well, no, I don't agree with you trying to hire somebody with 20 years' experience and being able to pay them that much. I wish we'd be able to pay them whatever we wanted to. That's not the that deal. We've got that position. What is it budgeted at? Is it a starting position? Are you gonna move them up to EMS 3 or 2 or however you do it? So we don't do that for the other departments, other elected officials. It's gonna set a precedent too, so.
Well, so, I'm not trying to defend that we don't need a policy that states what we can do here, but over there, so if you have a $25 an hour person and they leave, well, does he have a $25 an hour opening?
Nope, they got starting pay.
Well, that's not how it works with all the other elected officials, because they still have that amount of money in their salary line. And so, and we've seen that in the past, that everybody, you know, you don't start them at starting. No, I got a $40,000 a year job and I'm gonna pay him $40,000 a year. I mean, so it doesn't go back to starting. So we can talk all day about where it's in the budget, but, I mean, the budget's all over the place depending on when somebody leaves and when somebody gets hired. So.
No, I'm not disagreeing, some of it's jacked up.
But I just like, if a paramedic, a brand-new paramedic comes and applies, and he's new, he's gone through the training, but somebody who comes, who's got 20 years experience as a paramedic, I think he warrants making more than a 22-year-old who just out of, and the same in law enforcement. If you've got a deputy starting out who is just out of the academy, if he's gone to an academy, you know, here's your starting. But if you've got somebody that comes to you and they've had 20 years in law enforcement, I think, again, that warrants.
So we
you
should
got
hire
two
all
different. You got two
Let's
different.
hire all of them then. Anybody
If
that
somebody,
comes to us.
if I'm running an ad for my tuxedo store and somebody comes to me and they've got 20 years in tuxedos, I'm gonna pay them a heck
It's a
of a
whole
lot
lot
more.
It's a whole lot different. It'd be nice to be able to run this as a free enterprise, but it's not near the same. I mean, it seems like you should be able to do it, but it's not. If you have an entry-level position at the county open, you do not bring in a third-tier or fourth-tier person. You got an entry-level position that you're gonna fill. It's a position. So, I don't know exactly how you'd address the policy or what, I mean, it's
Jeff, as a
certain.
taxpayer, I want the best value, the best employee that I can get for my tax dollar. And sometimes that costs a little more, and I don't have any problem with that. I don't
You're gonna
think
pay more
anybody
for
should-
entry
I don't
level?
think anybody should go, I don't think the commission should go off the deep end.
So if
But
I got
it can
a
be said that
position
you get what you pay for.
that, and I'll pick on Public Works since they're here. So I've got an entry-level position here. I need somebody to hold a flag or a stop sign. You're gonna go and pay them X amount of dollars more because they got experience holding a sign or whatever?
No, it's gotta be more than just,
Well, it's qualified,
because
it's
they're experienced
overqualified
holding a
flagman.
flag, there also has to be job responsibilities that go with that.
Well, I hope the guy holding the flag up doesn't kind of show up in an ambulance and want to treat me, so.
He's qualified, we got flagmen out there that are first responders.
Well, yeah, but I don't want him to save my life.
That flagman's good, you don't get hit by it.
Yeah.
You know,
Or I might hit a flagman.
The amount of money, for instance, that Public Works can save by hiring an experienced operator over somebody fresh out of.
So then why even have
Tech.
an entry-level position then? We should give them all operator threes, because I guarantee you we'd be able to fill them tomorrow. But we don't do that. We have operator threes that are qualified, we have operator ones that are qualified to be operator threes. I almost guarantee you we got a couple of them sitting there.
Well, I
So
think
we
you
should
need
pay
to
them
look
more
at-
because they're qualified is
You
what
need
I'm
to look
going
at the
for.
broader picture. There's supply and demand also.
It is the broader picture. It's everywhere.
It's compression too.
And we got the compression thing in there too. We can throw a whole lot of things in there. I wanted to bring it up, and Jerry's getting picked on a lot here because this was the one that brought it up. So, and it's not to be picking on EMS at all. Or really anybody, kind of, I could pick on the finance office here if we want to do that, because.
Well, we brought him in at mid-range, we didn't bring him in at we brought him in at mid-range, which, to me, with 20 years of experience, I still don't have any problem with bringing him in at mid-range. You're not bringing him in at the top end, you're not bringing him at the bottom. You're giving
EMS
him.
is a little different too.
I'm sorry?
EMS is a little different too. So there's a lot of differences there.
We have a lot of differences. We're a very diverse group.
Yes.
Yes.
County government is.
Yes.
And I can't help but say we've went full circle now. We need to have somebody come look at us, countywide. We're never gonna get away from any of these issues.
Mhm.
For you guys to handle one by one that comes up, I don't think is the right solution. I think we need to put it out there like the city did. They went and had a salary study done. I know maybe you don't want to hear that, but we are diverse, and it's hard for us to sit here and to separate the person from the job. The position, what we need versus what we'd like to have. We'd all like to have star workers in every position we have. We can't afford to have star workers in every position we have. We need to find out what positions we need and then go from there with the cooperation of a group. So, but it's up to you guys, but I don't think these problems are gonna go away until we get some kind of structure.
I might let Eric speak first because he had his hand up first. I get to be a school teacher. Yes.
I mean, my office, which has been mentioned numerous times so far, or alluded to, is, you know, he's not a star employee. I'm not sure some of the monikers are being thrown around here. It's a guy who worked for the state, Mark Reether, my deputy treasurer, who worked with the state for 30 years, who audited counties for 30 years. And I can give a quick example of what happened in my office. When the preceding deputy left a number of months ago, I made the mistake of hiring somebody that a number of you here in the room would agree was probably the ideal person. Some experience, but not a lot. No degree, and you all put her in at basically what her predecessor was making.
Probably should
And
come to the
after
table
we-
so people can hear.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Come on up to the.
Because we have had people call about that, Eric, so they want to hear what everybody's got to say, except for John.
And so after two weeks of having that person on board, I realized that I had erred. She herself agreed that an error had been made in hiring her. She simply didn't have the experience and the education necessary for that position. Then I got somebody like Mark, who has the experience and has the CPA, who has, and that's not somebody who's overqualified. That's somebody who's eminently qualified to walk into a position, and with a modest amount of training from myself and from the auditor's office and from several other offices, was able to hit the ground running and get the job done. The idea that that kind of person commands somewhat more than somebody without the same commensurate experience or education, it makes sense. When I was a commissioner for 8 years, we had the same issues come up, and the commission invariably would agree, and apparently they don't now, but they used to agree that somebody who had more experience and better education should, 9 times out of 10, make more, earn more, get paid more than the person who didn't have that. And now apparently it's tilting the other way, where we're supposed to find people that aren't overqualified, that don't have too much experience and that don't have too much education, even though they're willing to come to the county and work at significantly reduced wages. If they're happy and we get somebody very qualified, that's not somebody overqualified, that's a perfect match. And if you set the parameters, like Debbie's talking about, through a study where here's the minimum and here's the maximum, obviously the person who has more experience and more education, usually should be on the higher end, and the person who doesn't should be on the lower end. I guess I don't understand who would disagree that a person that's very qualified
with a lot of experience should be compensated by the county more than somebody with noticeably less experience and less education. I'm not sure I understand that, but appreciate it.
And one thing I try to never do is agree with Eric, but I do this time.
Thank you, Larry.
Okay, so are we doing that for everybody?
If you had a structure, you could. A lot of them have like a 5% margin from the low to where you could bring somebody in based on experience, or, there could be other parking,
Larry, come
things that.
to the microphone.
When I'll say I'm using the word overqualified loosely, I don't mean it as a derogatory term at all. I'm saying they're coming in with this much experience, some kind of degree and such. So take it how you want. I don't know.
The only thing I caution you, if you do a pay study, we've got to go into it with the knowledge that we're going to fund it. That was probably the biggest morale problem with our staff out there, is that, that there wasn't funds ever put there to fund it. I would caution, if we're going to do one, let's plan out far enough ahead to make sure we have a reserve to be able to fund it to the minimum levels. When we went through it the last time, Larry, I would say, that was our biggest problem morale-wise, is it never was funded.
It took us 3 to 4 years to get on the grid that the company came up with, because we were so far behind the market. We did get up to the grid. Our problem was, from there on, we didn't increase that grid by the COLA, which we should have. And before that, when we started, the minute we started, we should have increased it. So yes, we didn't keep up. We did get everybody on it. Could that happen again? Yes. It could happen again, but at least we have something that we're starting with. And will all the elected officials buy into it? No. Majority of the employees do work for the county commission. So the sheriff's department's pretty big, but I would think if they would be in this and cooperate and get a say in this group and who we hire, then everybody would accept this. Yes, there'll be a small group of elected officials who say, give me my money and I'll figure it out from there. But if you help 95% of the county employees, and we're all on the same pay scale, then that's what we should be.
Well, the only thing, when I say, I maybe misspoke, we did get it in 3 or 4 years, Debbie, but we didn't do anything with the compression. Everybody
We
was.
never fixed anything.
No, it was everything, we had guys that were there 10 years, that were brought up to the minimum levels, yes, but that also meant the guys that had been there 3 years, if they were in the same position, were brought up to that too. We've got to have some, like, they were saying, there's some merit for longevity being with it. If they've been with us for, 10 years, 15 years, especially in our group. I know it's the same with jury and law enforcement. When these guys show up and when you don't even call them, during a winter storm, I know it's a perfect world, pie in the sky kind of thing, but morale-wise, we've got to be able to fund it for it to do right. Otherwise, we get a lot of this, well, if they just spent the money that they spent on the salary study and gave it to us as raises, we've been better off type of deal. So that's my 2 cents. I don't know if any of the other department.
But I think we're in that boat. We're in this boat now.
Come on up, Jerry.
Because we're treating different departments differently.
Yes, I understand. I think we were the last ones that are still using the structure. We didn't realize it had been put aside, so. Agree? So, thank you.
Thanks.
I really only have 2 points. Point number 1 is, I think from a business practice standpoint, it would behoove the county to establish pay ranges for each grade and then philosophically determine how much they're going to award for each position for a year's worth of experience. Is it 1%, 3%? Doesn't really matter. But I think if you set a range and then you set so much, then you have a consistent approach that Debbie talks about. That being said, I don't think you can treat everybody the same, because Public Works is different than EMS, is different than sheriff, is different than some elected officials. So we all compete for our most prized resource, which is people. And you've got to be able to try and get the best for your buck, as Chris kind of alluded to earlier. Do you always want the lowest experienced paramedic hovering over you when you're bleeding to death? And I think we all know the answer to that. So what we're trying to do, what I'm trying to do, is get the best and brightest in for each position without breaking the bank. And that's what I'm trying to do. It just so happened we quote unquote won the lottery and had a 25-year guy want to relocate here. That doesn't happen every day. It doesn't happen in anybody's world every day. But we need to factor those cases in. And so how wide the ranges go, to me, you'll have to set a number. What you award for experience, you have to set a number. And then what is your end point where you're going to start somebody out at? And you could set that county-wide, but you could give each department head a little latitude. I personally, in EMS, may want to go to 40% of the range as top level. Well, Larry may not need to go to that in his world. He may only need 20% of that. So, or he may need 60. But my point is, there will be a top end, and when they get to top end, that's it. If you set scales for everybody, and in my department right now, there's no top end. People just keep getting awarded the COLA merit adjustments and just keep moving up. And I've already run some numbers that have shown we probably have, it doesn't matter how wide you make the scale, we probably have 6 or 8 people in our department that would exceed any scale that you could put together right now. So I think those are philosophical questions that you have to answer. How you end up doing it, I'm not sure you can put all the departments in the county under one umbrella, but you could put that philosophy to work within each department, so that the department heads don't have to come to you every time. You've already given them parameters by which they go by, and the pay forms all get their signatures that they need, so we're sure it's accurate. And that would be my 2 cents. But I don't for a minute want to subscribe to the theory that we have to hire everybody at minimum wage, especially in my world. And I don't think you want that as a potential user of our services either.
I don't think we have anybody at minimum wage. So
I mean,
didn't
minimum
say
starting.
that.
I meant minimum starting, not minimum.
Well, I mean, we are, the departments and different elected offices are different, but in fairness, it needs to be, like you said, the same, the same procedure. They will be different, but a range would be nice. But you still can't bring somebody in if you have a position for an entry-level position. You can't just go, well, I found this, needle in a haystack. It's a great opportunity. I don't go buy diapers because they're on sale either. It's just, I'm not going to spend money on diapers if I don't need them.
You got a new one coming?
I knew this wasn't going to be
Gosh.
maybe not the best analogy.
I thought you practiced safe sex.
Wow.
Goodness.
I abstain. So. Better just give me your check. Better just give me your checkbook.
I thought more of you, Jeff.
This is
$6.
mostly yours.
$6.
I'm gonna need a lockbox pretty soon.
Didn't we have a group we put together to look at the
A year or so
salary
ago.
issues, and we kind of put that off, waiting for the city to finish their study.
We did that about a year or so ago.
Reactivate that, or
I'm fine with
plus the
that,
fact
too.
that we
That's
have
kinda where this
copies
was-
of the city's study now, so that would help lay some groundwork maybe for an approach to this, or
I'm fine with that. I don't think it's a bad idea, revisiting it. The city is done with theirs. We talked about waiting for that. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. John's looking at some different ways to do it. Jerry's already looking at some ways to implement that will help. We did one at Public Works a couple years ago, or a year and a half ago. That helped a little bit. Did it make it perfect? Not necessarily. My deal on this was, Larry, it's different for the ambulance because they're under our control. So if we're gonna allow them to bring somebody in at some kind of mid-range, if you come to me or the sheriff comes to me and asks for somebody like that, are we gonna do the same for them? We're gonna keep adding money to their budget if they had an entry-level position, but they got somebody that's more qualified and gonna be a better fit and they wanna pay them more. Are we gonna tell them yes as well? Or we're gonna tell you yes?
Well, I think there has to be a level of trust between the commission and the department heads and elected officials that when they come and make that request, it's for good cause. That they're not gonna do it for every hire they have or every employee.
I don't think anybody's ever come up here without having the best intentions for the county on that. I've got an employee here that'd be the best for this position. I just don't have the money in my budget to pay him what I need to get him here. Will y'all give me more money? And then it comes on us to either increase the budget or give you the money. And if we do it for you, we really need to do it for everybody all the way around. So if we're gonna do it in this instance, then are we doing it across the board?
And if you let each department do their own, then they're focused on their department. You guys have to focus on the whole county, so to let different departments do that in-house, I don't think is where you need to be. That's just, because there is.
If we have to fix one at a time and do them each, because they are different, ambulance is different, sheriff's different, public works is different. I mean, it's hard to compare a flagman to somebody that's gonna be giving me mouth to mouth. Because I don't want the flag guy giving me mouth to mouth. Obviously, they're trying to set my leg in a splint.
Talking about your date last night?
What, give him a dollar, give him a dollar, come on.
It's the same, but it's different, so, I mean, it's a lot more than we need to get dug into today. If you want to put another meeting together with the elected officials, and, well, we can even do it with department heads, but I'm fine with that too. It's been.
You don't offend me if you tell me no and you tell somebody else yes. Hopefully you're doing that for good reason.
I've been saying no a lot lately.
But, I think we're all adults here, and in some instances, it's a good investment for the county, and in some instances, it may not be.
You're in a rock, in a hard spot, guys. I'm not, raised the issue about paramedics.
We're giving all this to United
Good
Way.
United Way campaign.
Yeah, United Way.
Sorry, Larry.
You're between a rock and a hard place, It was brought up about, deputies doing what they do and paramedics. Same time, the guys that are out there driving snowplows, I guarantee most of your paramedics, I wouldn't want to put in one of our snowplows. Same way with one of the deputies. Each department has their own merits. They each do critical jobs for our society. That's why I've always said I'd never run for a county commission. I wouldn't have your all's job to save my soul. But there's pluses and minuses. Yeah, sometimes the guys are standing out there with a flag holding it in the middle of the road. But most of those guys, if not all of them, are during the wintertime are driving, $60,000, $80,000 or 60 to 80,000 pound weapons down the road. Each has its own merit. Each has its own duties. Like I said, I'm standing up for my guys at this point. So, I'm not saying one job's more important than the other. We all got to work together to get our jobs done. EMS, Sheriff's Department could get there if we don't do our job. Same way, we get hurt. I damn sure want the best paramedic out there working on my.
Yeah, I mean, public works guy. I don't want to meet anybody else driving a snowplow down the road.
But like Sam said earlier, you'd be surprised how many people listen to this. And I just want to stand up for our people too. We all have our own jobs to do, so.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you do a great job.
So does everybody else, so, the county's got a bunch of good employees, bottom line.
So that's the problem that we have, and without really, maybe we do need to have somebody look at it or whatnot, but it's not, we got to just get it through our head. It's not going to be the same for everybody. I mean, we can't have a system for sheriff that's maybe the same as Public Works or EMS. It's so,
gonna be different.
but we need to set some boundaries and we need to set some criteria and we need to put it in writing so that when future commissions come in here and they see all these same problems that we've been dealing with forever, that this is what we did and this is why we did it, and, you know, because clerical work is different than the EMS world and everybody else, so,
Well,
I mean.
we're doing it one at a time.
Right.
I mean, we had the
Yeah,
health
but it's different.
department, we had Christie here, we've had, you know, we're doing them, we'll have the prosecuting attorney down. It's, you know, we're doing them one at a time, and I don't know if this is, that's not really the best way to do it, I don't think.
But we try, I mean, you know, I've been beating my head up for years on trying to be fair across the board. Well, it's just, you know, what works for one department doesn't work for another.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what works for somebody that works 8 to 5, you know, 4 days a week or 5 days a week, whatever it is, doesn't work when you're 365, you know, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It just doesn't. I mean, they're different.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, I'm not picking on any of our departments.
Mhm.
I'm being consistent and telling everybody no. So,
God love you.
well, I'm serious.
Yeah,
It's been
I
that way.
know.
I mean,
I know.
even the city right now, Steve Kroll's down there, he knows when I come in, he just, no. So, it is kind of a joke, but it's not really a joke.
Yeah.
You know, we need to all try to be consistent, and if we can do that, like I said, they're not all the same. And I'll be curious what you're coming up with, John. Maybe we can implement something kind of across the board. And it gets especially difficult when you have other departments or elected officials with only 1 employee or 3 employees instead of 7, 10, 50. So, I don't know, Larry, if you think we should get another elected officials meeting together, John, sit down, kick some stuff around, and maybe meet every 2 months or 4 months or something. Not longer than an hour, because we lose our attention then.
Would you be open to somebody coming in and explaining to us, we're not the first government. The city's done it, other counties have done it. There's people out there that specialize in all the different jobs and departments that we have here.
I don't think we need to be told that. I think we all understand. I think we need to sit down and figure out what we want to do.
Salary study would be beneficial.
That's what you're talking about, right?
Yep.
Sorry to point.
I said the salary study would be beneficial.
Yeah, you said somebody come tell us. Yeah, I think in the back of all of our minds is that may be an option. We were waiting for the city to get done with theirs, and it's done, so, all right. We waited, let's try to schedule something, and get some dates together and
Fine.
see if we can get some kind of a plan. And we need to figure out where the money's coming from to fix it all.
Yep. Okay.
So don't come out and ask us for any more new employees, because we got it. I'd rather be taking care of what we got and try to increase that or fix that than hiring new positions or whatever, so. That's just me. Alrighty.
Good.
Doug, here you've been sitting so quietly.
I'm here to observe, and then I also, my concern was the small cities cooperative projects that came up last fall, $800,000. I know you all are getting ready to, you're working on coming up Business 50 towards St. Martin's, and we applied for a grant and we're only awarded a very small portion of it, not enough to do it, so we turned it down, and we're interested in bringing that further on through St. Martin, possibly on a cooperative project, and that's what, you know, I know, I believe in this 5 years budget, there was $800,000 in there, so that's my concern, just to see if, last fall when we met, the parameters hadn't been decided yet, so.
We're still working on that too.
Okay, so I just felt like if we're gonna do a joint project, the very best time, price-wise, is to join right in with you guys as you're coming up the hill there, so that's what, and we appreciate you doing that. That's you know, that'll be beneficial to St. Martin's, and we'd like to see it come right on through. We plan to reapply for TAP funds in 2 years. It was in 2016, so it'll come up again in 2018, and
That was one of the projects I alluded to when I was on the radio this morning, St. Martin's, and extending at least through to Route T to try and get it up that far. As far as going beyond that, I don't know if we can afford that.
Sure.
So,
We're just trying to, I talked to Eric Landwehr when our original plan was to overlay Business 50 through St. Martin's, and Eric said, well, if you're really serious about getting a sidewalk through there, of course, we've got St. Martin's School, kids walk along there every day. I think we're probably the last small community that doesn't have any kind of sidewalk along the main drag there. So we're trying to do something with that, where we could at least, maybe bring it up to T and then overlay it and have the engineering done, that when the funds became available to do the curb and gutter and sidewalk, that we're not tearing up anything that we've already done along along Business 50 there. So, I just wanted to, I didn't know if I needed to be on the agenda. I saw the cooperative projects was on there, and so.
No, you're just a visitor, so
Okay.
it's just,
So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, other business.
So that-
Would you want to help on Capitol Avenue?
I'm glad I don't have those problems. Just getting a sidewalk through St. Martin's is a challenge, so, but, thanks for the opportunity to bring that up, and then, Chris can holler at us when you come up with that.
Sure.
We'd really like to hook right on with you guys and do, whatever we can to get that extended even further, on the funds that we have.
Absolutely. Thanks, Doug.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
It's better than Campo meetings, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so before we adjourn, just for the record, Jeff said yes 9 times last week. So you don't always say no.
It's all going to United Way. Kristen, it's all going to United Way.
If he wanted another green.
I don't know. Maybe we were doing that behind. This was in commission session, so it was in the minutes. He said 9 times, almost 10.
Yep. I'm the mean stepdad.
Do we have any other issues?
The only other thing I wanted to bring up was to give the county clerk the new rate increase proposal for the EMS charges. I think there was 2 lines that were actually added to that, the ones in yellow from that email that you sent around for the additional staffing.
Yes.
I think the county clerk needs to have a copy of that, and they need to officially approve that again, so
Okay.
they can charge the right amount.
The rate increase?
Yes.
Okay.
So, you guys could just.
That's the rate.
Is that it right there?
Yeah.
Is that-
We got it, Jerry.
Is that
I'll print out your email.
Okay.
is that the rates for the part-time?
No, these are the rates for the.
For the.
Oh, the
our-
charges,
our
yes,
charges,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
The ones
didn't
in yellow were.
Yes.
didn't we already? Oh, we added some.
Yes.
That's what we had.
The hazardous or
No,
the,
the
Yeah, the additional staffing.
oh, okay.
Okay.
The extra ambulance, yeah.
Patient condition or.
Oh, yeah.
That's what selfie sticker
Yeah,
for, so
yeah,
I can read
yeah,
them.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go, thank you. Yeah, so we just need to approve that too.
Yeah.
If you would, just so you can have it on there.
I move that we approve the Cole County EMS rate increase proposal with the addition of additional staffing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's all I have.
Okay, anything else?
Anything else to come before us?
No.
No?
I move that we stand in recess till 4:30.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.